Welcome to the Author's Den, a place where we encourage reading and writing, a place where you can meet authors and book illustrators, a place to get your questions answered about writing, publishing, and promoting your book. Hello and welcome to the Author's Den. I'm your host Mike Talley, and we have a special show today. With me is my guest Stephen Mack Jones.
Hey, Mike.
Nice to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Author of August Snow and the new book, what's it called?
Lives Laid Away.
Well, you know, I had a chance to meet you once before, and I was really enjoying talking to you then. Didn't have enough time. I'm glad you could come today.
Well, thank you. I really enjoy the Southfield Library. It's a beautiful facility. I don't know, it's just gorgeous and friendly.
Is it the last year in particular you've won some awards?
The last 2 years, yes. The Hammett Prize for fiction, crime fiction, and also the Nero Award for crime fiction, and a few other nominations.
So what has that afforded you? Are you traveling now, promoting, or what's going on?
You know, I was traveling for the second book, Lives Laid Away. I was traveling pretty extensively at the beginning of the year. You know, all of the cold and snow that we had. And my travels took me to bookstores in some of the warmest areas of the nation: Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Chicago, snowdrifts like that.
I thought there was some sarcasm there.
Well, yeah. But it's been fun. It's been good meeting people and hearing the feedback.
Can you kind of catch us up a little bit? Tell us a little bit about August.
Yes.
And where you pick him up in the new book.
All right. For those who don't know, August Snow is ex-cop, ex-Detroit cop, former Marine, based in Detroit. His ethnicity is Mexican-American and African-American. And he was a Detroit cop until he got booted off the force for ratting on malfeasance in the mayor's office. He sued the city, won $12 million settlement, and he's returned to his old street in his old neighborhood of Mexican Town. Just kind of to find out who he is, to reinvent himself. August Snow 2.0. And he's renovating houses, which he doesn't want to make a hobby of or a business of, but it's something that keeps his mind active. And in the first book, he gets pulled into a situation of dark web, dirty money, international criminals, all of them centering around a bank that bad guys are trying to take over. The second book concerns undocumented immigrants, human trafficking, ICE raids, all of that mixed together.
Still very timely.
Yes, you know, it's strange because I wrote the book a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I thought by the time it was published, things would be a little more under control. As it stands, we, at least in my opinion, we seem to be continuing to lose pieces of our humanity, pieces of art, compassion, the things that America has been known for over the many years.
So in the new book, do you have some people that we can look to for that, for some inspiration other than August? And
There's always August. There's August's godfather, Tomas, who is, some people might describe him as a bull in a china shop. But he's a good-hearted guy who just has callous knuckles and an affinity for weaponry. At the opposite end, there's Tomas's wife, Elena, who is, she's an advocate for human rights. She believes in people. She works for their benefit. A good lady, strong. So there are a number of people that surround August that help him maintain balance.
I look forward to reading this. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I look forward to it.
Oh, I hope you enjoy it.
You know, some of the people that I've had on the show and people who've asked about it are always curious about the process. Maybe they think they have a book inside them, or
Yes.
they might write poetry or something.
Yes.
How did you start?
I've been writing since I was in grade school. And if you ask me about the process is simply to sit down and write. I'm not unlike a lot of people that are writing or want to write. If I write 10 pages, I'm sure you'll find that 8 of those pages are really crap. But then something happens with 2 of those pages that show promise. So you go back the next day and you write another 10 pages and you find that 3 of those pages actually work. 7 are still crap. But you're getting stronger. It's like a muscle that you're developing.
You know, I can kind of relate to it. I play music, and I kind of relate to the idea that there are times when we'll be improvising, and we'll listen back to it, and there'll be some gems in it that we want to develop and work with.
Sure.
It sounds similar.
Sure. What kind of music do you play?
Well, kind of jazzier side, but that's a whole other thing. This is about you.
No, actually, it's not a whole other thing, because there are a number of times when I'm writing with music in the background, and there are pieces that I listen to that like underscore scenes for me or inspire dialogue. So music to me is for me, it's very important to the writing process, whether it's jazz. You remember the CTI recordings?
I sure do.
Oh, yeah.
Creed Taylor.
Oh, Creed Taylor put out some great music. But listening to early George Benson or Freddie Hubbard or even electronica, Juan Atkins, all of the guys from Detroit.
You found some inspiration there, huh?
Absolutely. Some people require just dead silence when they write. The only sounds they want to hear are the sounds that are happening in the story in their head. I do that sometimes, yes. It's really difficult for me to express how important listening to music is. Music that inspires a scene, music that really reveals another layer of a character. For example, there's one song that I feel is really the heart and soul of who August Snow is. And if I'm stuck, I can play this song and it's like, okay, that's who he is. And it's Robbie Robertson's testimony. It's a great song, and it is the core of August Snow. So yeah,
We'll use that.
let's talk music.
Did you have authors that or books when you were younger that inspired you?
Quite a few, too many to really name, but I can tell you that a couple of science fiction authors really inspired me, not so much because of the science fiction, but because of the way they conveyed other worlds, the way they created worlds. People like Ray Bradbury and Isaac Asimov and Robert Silverberg, and then moving into Kurt Vonnegut, poetry, Langston Hughes, Nikki Giovanni, Pablo Neruda, just numerous, and then falling in love with Dashiell Hammett and Robert B.
You can
Parker,
see some of that in your writing. Yep.
all of those guys, the Nero Wolfe adventures. Oh, so yes, and I could go on.
I know. I can tell. That's great. That's great. You were an avid reader.
Yes, yes. Reading and writing for me is, well, writing for me is gaining a sense of control in a world that refuses to be controlled. It's a way of making sense of the world around me. And if I don't write, I feel an imbalance. I feel weightless in a world of gravity. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but
So do you write all every day?
I try to write every day. I that's the goal. Sometimes the goal isn't met, but I try to write every day.
So what's your schedule like? Are you actively promoting the new book right now?
Well, it was a lot busier at the beginning of the year. Right now, I'm working on the third August Snow book. So my head is in my laptop most of the day, taking time out for a little Netflix here and there. But yeah, I've been pretty busy with this third book.
There's a couple authors I've interviewed. They say they write freehand. They work at a typewriter. They work with word processing.
Right.
And having said that, there's all these invisible jobs that seem to be involved in getting a book published. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
It's not so much a process as it is controlled chaos. There is the chaos of, at least for me, from my end, writing a first draft and just letting every idea out on the page. And I work directly on a laptop, no longhand. My handwriting is terrible. It's gotten really bad. But that's another story altogether.
Did you have proofreaders or editors before you got the book published, or did they help you
No.
with that? Or
No. The process, the accepted time-honored process is you, the author, write the book, and then you rewrite it, and you rewrite it again, and once more for luck. And then you try to acquire an agent. someone that will represent your book and your interests to a publisher. So once you get an agent, you are essentially hands off the book. It's hard to let go, but that agent is there to represent your interests. And these are the folks that know the industry. They know the publishers. They know who wants what, when, where, and why. So
Who to approach on your behalf.
yes, exactly. They're representing you, and vigorously representing the work. And they make every effort to sell your work to the publishers that they think will do justice by your work.
Did you find that they tried to influence the book at all? Your plot or your characters or any of that?
You know, I've been very fortunate. My publisher is Soho Press. And I've been very fortunate because they are a bit smaller, a bit more dynamic. They know what their market is. But in working with my editor, Juliet Grames, she's just brilliant. And the best editors do what she does. And she splits her time with my work being part psychotherapist and part drill sergeant. The psychotherapist says, Steve, on page 73, what was this character thinking when she said that? So we have that discussion, and in that discussion, she pulls out of me a deeper understanding of that character's
Maybe the backstory or
psychology.
something.
Exactly.
That's great.
The drill sergeant, so she's not really rewriting it or forcing it another way. She's pulling more out of me.
Real nice.
The drill sergeant comes in essentially when the business side comes in. Steve, between pages 82 and 85, it's beautiful writing. 82, 83, 84, 85 are just magnificent writing. They have nothing to do with the story. Get them out of here.
Oh, that's hard.
It's hard until you get those pages out and bring them together and oh, now I see what she saw.
Well, that's really helpful then, isn't it?
It is.
Sounds like you have a
It
great
is.
relationship with this person.
I'd like to think that I do. And I think it's the same relationship that they foster with all of their authors.
Very nice.
To bring out the best in each one of their authors.
But, let me back up just a little bit. There's so many different genres that you could choose to write in.
Yes.
And why this one? Why mysteries? Why crime?
I have really enjoyed reading from different genres, and it's very hard for me to explain why, because we get into a discussion on genres. You're in this genre, you shouldn't talk about.
It almost narrows
that.
it down, doesn't it?
Exactly.
I understand.
Exactly. Because again, my reading background is across the board. Having fallen in love with science fiction at a young age, the ability to go to Ray Bradbury's Mars, or Isaac Asimov's Universe End, all the way to Cows in Outer Space with, what was his name? Adams? Doug Adams. Yeah. All of those genres have inspired me.
When I read through August Stowe, I found myself really trying to capture the moments where you had your humor come through, because you do have humor that rides through here. Can you relate some of that?
Well, the bottom line is I like to laugh. And more than not, I'm laughing at a joke that I've told to only my own head. And, my lovely wife just wonders, what is he thinking about? And I don't want to know. But if I didn't laugh, I would be nuts. Because you'll note that in August Snow, a lot of the humor is wrapped around very dark
Like gallows
subjects.
humor?
Gallows humor, and a way to put a thin barrier between yourself and the horror
The harsh
that's
world.
being revealed. Something that pulls you back from that bleak edge.
You have to laugh sometimes.
Exactly. As a matter of self-preservation.
I enjoy your writing because I can really see it. And that makes me think that there's a movie here somewhere. Have you talked to anybody about this? Or?
Well, I do have a production contract with producers in Hollywood. They are currently exploring ways to bring August Snow to either the small screen or the large screen.
Good.
And that's always fun to talk about. But my job is to keep August on the page.
To keep writing.
Exactly. And whatever they're going to do 3,000 miles away is whatever they're going to do.
It could happen, it might not ever happen.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I think I kind of heard you implying too that it's going to be out of your hands when it goes there.
Exactly. Exactly. So I maintain control where I can, and that control is the style of the novel and the thriller. And one of your previous questions was why the thriller, why the mystery? I was a big fan, huge fan, still am, of Robert B. Parker. Robert B. Parker's Spencer series, the short Sonny Randall series that he had, and the Paradise Island series that he had. Even his cowboy books, but primarily Spencer. And I just found them extraordinarily enjoyable and revealing, because it was a way of, you have a mystery, but you're also speaking about the society that you find the mystery in.
A context.
Yes. So we hear these days of border mysteries, border towns. And a lot of people don't realize that Detroit is a border town, that we have the same potential for mystery, for thrillers, as our southern border. And to be honest with you, very few people have an idea of what Detroit is.
Yeah, well, they have a stereotype. They have the
Yes.
media image that's been painted, but
Yes.
for us that live here, we know a little bit different.
Exactly. This is an intriguing city. It's an extraordinarily diverse city. it's an amazing town, and we're living right now in a time of sea change in this city. So the mystery thriller genre offered me an opportunity to explore various aspects of the city, how Detroit is rising, how we are diverse.
There's so much going on at any point in time in Detroit. Every
Yes,
weekend
yes.
I look and I think there's so many things I want to go to or see, be a part of,
Exactly.
experience, and things are changing, and I can see that you're grabbing some of that and putting it in your books, and that makes it really exciting, really approachable to me.
Thank you, thank you. And like you were saying, I want to get it out of the stereotypical shorthand that people think of Detroit. Sparks flying on an automotive assembly line, the tension between black and white, and that we eat just chili poured on a hot dog. I have nothing against chili on a hot dog. I love Coney's. But this is a city where you can find French cuisine, Vietnamese cuisine,
Absolutely. Thai,
Korean,
Lebanese.
Thai, Lebanese,
You name it.
any kind of food you want, any kind of food you can imagine.
And Mexican, since your new book takes place in Mexican
Exactly.
town.
I've gotten fan letters, and footnote, for me to use the term fan letter is just bizarre to me. Letters from people who enjoyed the books.
Very good.
From Southern California to Australia and Scotland, who have said, they've either said, I had no idea this was happening in Detroit, that you had 3 Michelin star restaurants in Detroit, or people that haven't been back to Detroit in 40 years saying, you brought back so many good memories for me of the city.
That's nice. That's nice.
So it's aside from writing, a mystery, a thriller, and the obligation to kill somebody within the first 40 pages, it's a great opportunity to talk about this town, these people.
It's great PR.
I'd like to think so.
It is. I know that you said you're working on a 3rd book. What can you tell us anything about it at all?
Well, it's kind of hard to talk about what you're working on, because as my wife reminded me, she was telling me that she heard another author talking about why it's difficult to talk about what you're writing, and the analogy was, it's like a woman who is maybe in her 8th month of pregnancy, and she's had 8 months of people saying, oh, is it a boy? Is it a girl? Have you considered names? What kind of schools are you thinking about? And it's like, I'm still building this thing.
I got you. I got you. Well, I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
I really
very
am.
much.
I look forward to it. And anytime that you have something that you want to talk about, please get in touch with me and come back. Okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.